Hey guys, how you doing? We wanted to bring you a news alert. Thanks to our friends over at Gun Owners of America. We have some actionable intelligence from the Hill regarding two bills that are currently in the House of Representatives. But before we dive into that, I want to post a couple of things. First of all, if Super Chat is enabled, if you guys want to donate to the channel through Super Chat, doing that, YouTube takes 45% or something like that. They take a big cut. There's another option. There's a link down below if you want to donate to the channel. It's from Streamlabs. It's a link in the description below. And yeah, it's much, much less. It cuts YouTube, who doesn't like us, out of the picture. So anyway, sorry, YouTube. All right. So HR 38, and then we have another bill, HR 4434, that are currently in committee in the House of Representatives. HR 38 is national reciprocity. We're going to talk about that one first. And then we want to talk about HR 4434, which is the NICS fix bill. So both of these are being marked up right now. They're going to be voted in committee on Wednesday, tomorrow. They're both expected to make it out of committee to make it to the floor for a general vote. And so we want to talk about the positives and negatives of these two bills. So first of all, let's talk about HR 38, and this is the National Reciprocity Act. So first of all, I want you guys to know, and I think you guys know, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is his phone may go off because he's on baby watch. Yep. And if you see somebody typing frantically, meet me at the hospital in the comments, that's his wife.
Her last form of communication, if she needs to get to me, is actually posting in
we have
the comments.
Right? So
if she says, hey, meet me at the hospital or come pick me up.
So Dave may bolt out of here really, really abruptly. So,
but it means that much to me that I'm here. That
yeah, I mean, it's that important to him, right? So this is what we want you guys to know is that first of all, HR 38 is of course the National Reciprocity Act. It has over 200 co-sponsors. It's expected to obviously make it out of committee, make it to the floor, and it's expected to pass the House of Representatives. And from what our guys are telling us from Gun Owners of America is they do not expect HR 38 to get marked up with a bunch of amendments that would be poison pills, similar to the Hughes Amendment of the FOPA of the 1986 Act, which was the Hughes Amendment that took away machine guns. So they're looking for poison pills. Doesn't look like any are going to be attached to HR 38. Now, what does HR 38 do? Well, first of all, it does a number of different things. Now, I know some of you guys are like me, and you don't believe that states or the federal government should license rights. I believe that the fact that I have to go pay a tax and get permission from my state to carry a gun is unconstitutional. It's wholly unconstitutional. It would be like saying I need to go to college and have show a 4-year degree in English before I can make a blog post, and then it's up to the government whether or not I can do it, and I have to pay a tax for the privilege. Licensing is unconstitutional, but the reality is we currently live under this system, so how can we fix it and make it better so that in the long game, we got to look at these battles piece by piece. In the long game, how does a victory like HR 38 help us today, and how does it help us 20 years down the road? And that's what I want to talk about, because I know a lot of you guys are going to say, that this is just giving the federal government more power, which in my opinion, it's not.
I think this was the biggest fear leading up, us knowing that a national reciprocity bill was coming, was that it was going to be an overreaching step in the direction of national registration.
Right, where the federal government would take over licensing, and they would issue federal licenses to all 50 states. And I would be totally opposed to that. If that's what HR 38 was, absolutely would oppose it. I don't care who supported it. I would be against that. That's giving power to the federal government. What this bill does is basically Article 4 of the Constitution requires other states to honor each other's permits and licenses, right? So if just by the Constitution, my Indiana driver's license is good in Illinois, it's good in New York City, but my Indiana concealed carry license is not good in Illinois, is not good in New York City. It's not being honored. What this bill does is forces the states to honor other states' licenses and permits, including handgun permits. Now, here's the beauty of HR 38. So there's a number of things that it does. It not only forces states to honor the permits and licenses of other states. This includes states, and we have 13 of them so far. This includes states with constitutional carry, states like Vermont and Kansas. There are a number of states, and we're fighting for it right now in Indiana. If you have constitutional carry, HR 38 is even better for you, right? Because the only thing that the requirement of the law is you have to be able to prove with the driver's license or something that you're a resident of a constitutional carry state.
This would prevent you from, right now in Indiana, it's fairly easy to get our carry permit. So we have to look at maps when we're traveling across country.
I have a map on my phone, yep.
Right, which states you can go in, and you kind of have to plan your
plot
route
your
through
course
that,
based
especially
upon
being so near to Illinois and other states like that where we have to
North
drive
Carolina
through
doesn't honor my permit, but South Carolina does.
Right, so
it's like
having constitutional carry allows you to travel freely without having to worry, which is a beautiful thing.
And here's a number of different things that it does outside of this. So first of all, let's talk about how it's kind of important and why I like it. I think it's a victory in the right direction.
Is it maybe important to read like the pertinent section where it says kind of the legalese speak, or should we just
go ahead if you want to?
I mean, it's kind of boring, but to actually hear the verbiage of what it says. So the small paragraph that kind of sums it up is: a person who is not prohibited by federal law from possessing, transporting, shipping, or receiving a firearm, who is carrying a valid identification document containing a photograph of the person, and who is carrying a valid license or permit which is issued pursuant to the law of a state and which permits the person to carry a concealed firearm or is entitled to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which the person resides, may possess or carry a concealed handgun.
So basically what it says is if your state gives you a permit, the other states have to follow it. Now this is what's kind of cool about HR 38. Yes, it does suck that we still have to live under a licensing scheme, but guys, if we can get HR 38 passed, what this allows, if you live in New York City, for example, and New York City is a may issue state, not a shall issue. It's like California, may issue, not shall issue. So it's discretionary. DC, discretionary, whether or not they want to give you a permit to own a handgun. This HR 38 negates those state laws because you, as a New York citizen, you can go to Florida and get an out-of-state resident permit to carry, or you can get a Utah permit to carry. And now you're licensed by the state of Utah or by the state of Florida. New York has to honor your permit. And the beauty of this law, it also protects you from magazine restrictions, ammunition restrictions. I believe New Jersey has a ban on hollow points. You have certain states like California and the SAFE Act, New York, where you have bans on magazine capacities. HR 38 takes that away. Me as an Indiana resident, I can go into California carrying my handgun under HR 38 with a 15-round magazine with hollow points and with a handgun that isn't even approved on their roster. If you're a California citizen, you can do the same thing. You can get an out-of-state permit from some other state, and now the California state laws are meaningless because HR 38 has effectively gutted them. And so it's a small battle.
What that does, and we don't really know how this would play out, but it creates this weird relationship between what you're allowed to carry, let's say, for example, in California, and what you're allowed to purchase.
Right.
If you have an out-of-state resident.
This probably would wind up causing some sort of a constitutional crisis because I guarantee
I'm positive it'll get challenged.
Yeah, every single state will file a lawsuit immediately that bans guns in some way. Well, we'll more than likely challenge this in the courts. But if we get it passed, it becomes law. It says within 90 days of being signed by the president, it is law. And at that point, let them fight it in the courts and drag it out as long as we can because it's law at that point, unless they get some judge to issue an injunction or something. But I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
So you have that type of protection from HR 38. It also gets rid of, and this is really cool, it gets rid of and repeals federal gun zones, gun-free zones, such as school zones where you're not allowed to carry a handgun federally on school property. HR 38 does away with that. It also expands where you can legally carry your firearm to virtually all federal lands to the same extent that the 2011 amendment authorized guns in federal parks. HR 38 expands that to all federal properties, which may be subject to certain state laws. That's yet to be seen, but it does mention that in the law. So it does more than just force reciprocity. It undoes things that in my opinion, have resulted in tragedies being far worse because we have these gun-free zones, which are insane in my mind. To think that a teacher is unable to carry a firearm to protect their class, that's just mind-numbingly stupid to me. But then again, I guess not everybody thinks like I do.
Well, I think, I think all of us sitting here agree that national constitutional carry is the goal.
Right. And right. See, and that's kind of, I think that's what this kind of does.
At least it's a big step in the right direction. I don't think that can be argued. But yeah, so I mean, definitely it's a good kind of breath of fresh air after what we've been dealing with for the last couple months.
And that's just it, guys. So down in the description below, we're going to put a phone number to the House of Representatives, the General Switchboard. You need to start calling that phone number. You need to blow the switchboards up tomorrow morning. And all you have to say, if you agree with us, is I support H.R. 38. I do not support H.R. 4434, which is the Nix Fix bill, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. So does anybody have any questions regarding H.R. 38? I'm concerned with, like there might be folks out there that think that it's a bad thing for some reason.
A lot of people think that, they're still holding a strong no compromise position, which you address, that you obviously agree with a national-wide constitutional carry, permitting system, but we understand that we're working with the system we have right now.
Right.
One of the other things, we've got a couple trolls showing up, so just we see you guys and you're getting banned, so thanks for
be a troll and get banned. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about that. So guys, as I said, I do not believe in licensing, but the reality is we live in a licensing system. Ultimately, what this law may allow us to do 20 years down the road is it basically guts all the states that have these grossly unconstitutional laws like California, New York, and all these other places. This law guts their laws. It allows their citizens to go get permits from other states, and it negates any of their anti-gun laws. This would be like the best thing that ever happened for California, I mean, in my lifetime, and New York, and I'm trying to think of other banned states, Jersey, and all these states have these ridiculous anti-gun laws that don't even issue concealed carry permits. It's all discretionary. It's whether or not you have enough money, or if the sheriff likes you. If you donate it to the right person's campaign, you get a permit. If you're just a regular working guy or girl, sorry, no permit for you. This does away with all that. This makes it illegal for states to deny you your right to carry a firearm. This is what I'm hoping. So we get H.R. 38 passed, and we all need to push for this, I believe. And then at a grassroots level, we start pushing to get more than 13 states that are constitutional carry. Let's make it 15, 20, 25. And how many states did Obama say we had? 53? Pretty soon we'll have all 53 or all 57 states.
Well,
sorry, I had to get that joke in. Yes, I know we have 50 states.
At the very least, once it goes into effect, if you're in a state that's restricted, and now other residents are allowed to come into your state and do what they please, carry what they want, at least it might light a fire under some of these states to start pushing for constitutional carry, where before they really didn't have any hope of it.
Right. This is going to force a discussion in these states. They're heavy ban states, because the citizens of those states are going to be mad that out-of-staters are coming in with rights that they don't have themselves. This could be absolutely insanely great. And again, guys, I hate the permitting system. I do not agree with it. But without a revolution, and I don't want a revolution, without a revolution, working within the system that we have to slowly fix what we've slowly broken, this, I believe, is a big step forward in getting our rights back that have been taken from us. And it's not with additional federal oversight. There's nothing in H.R. 38 that gives anything, it mentions anything about the federal government expanding their powers.
I'm still seeing a lot of people, some guys are saying that, this resolution here, H.R. 38, would be possibly considered a 10th Amendment violation, and it violates state sovereignty and stuff. But then the other argument could be made that
Article 4
any state that enacts any sort of gun restriction is a violation of the Second Amendment.
Well, but Article 4 of the Constitution says that states must honor other states' licenses and permits. I mean, or I'm paraphrasing. So by Illinois not recognizing our permit, Illinois is in violation of the Constitution. What H.R. 38 is doing is forcing states to play by the rules of the Constitution. So, and then hopefully, again, at a grassroots level, guys, we're fighting here in Indiana, you fight in your home states, and we get constitutional carry in our home states. And then HR 38 is awesome. It completely erases any of the handgun laws that are in the banned states. It completely negates them, makes them irrelevant. If you want to be a gun owner in New York City, you just simply go to Florida or Utah, get a carry permit, and boom, you can do it in your own state. In Florida, you don't even have to go to Florida to get the permit, or to Utah. So I do not see a downside to this. And if you oppose this, it's not helping. But I mean, I'm not going to say that you're wrong in opposing it. But guys, this couldn't get any better if what we see right now is what is actually put to the floor to a vote.
It could get better.
It could get better.
It could get better.
Dianne Feinstein and Chucky Schumer could wake up one morning and go, you know what, guys, we're sorry. Here's your rights back. You can have them all back. That would be ideal.
But I think we were both extremely pleasantly surprised at how good this is. Right? Yeah. Or how good it seems to be.
So I mean, if we don't get this passed, guys, I honestly believe we're screwing ourselves. Please make the phone calls and make those emails, send those emails starting tomorrow morning saying that you support HR 38. When you call the phone number, you don't have to leave, a long, hopefully somebody answers, but if you get sent into voicemail, don't leave a 20-minute message, right? Just say, I want you to support, I want my congressman to support HR 38. That's all you have to say. And I do not want them to support HR 4434. So if we don't have any other questions about...
We've got some other stuff.
Okay.
Can you clarify exactly how HR 38 affects or could possibly affect magazine capacity bans in those areas? Is this speculation right now, or is there language that says that?
The actual language of the law says that if me as an Indiana resident, I have no restrictions on magazine capacities, bullet types, nothing. And same thing with Florida and Utah, which I know issue non-resident permits. They don't have magazine bans or bullet type restrictions. If you have a permit or you're a resident of a state that has no ban on those items, you can legally go into a state like Illinois, Chicago, New York City, Detroit, Los Angeles, San Francisco, wherever you want. And you can carry a 15-round magazine with hollow points with a gun that's not even approved for the roster in California because you're protected by HR 38 and your own state, which says that we have given you permission.
Or the state of your license.
Yep. And then the other one says, sorry, go ahead.
He said protected by your own state. And I
said,
or
the state that issues your permit. Right.
The other question is, how does this affect federal and state gun-free zone? Because lots of state permits have even more restricted areas where you're not allowed to carry a firearm. So, military bases have been a question I've seen. College campuses, schools, etc.
So all we know from the law, the way it's worded, is virtually all federal lands will be opened up to concealed carry by either constitutional carry states or states that have permits. So it would open up virtually all federal lands. Now it doesn't say anything about military bases specifically. I don't know how that would be handled, but the bill itself doesn't mention anything about military bases. That's a good question. It should be in there.
Give people a rundown of the name of the two bills. What we support, we don't support. Tell them where they can and can't donate to the stream and the phone number.
Okay, so the bill that we want to support is HR 38, guys. This is a National Reciprocity Act.
What are you looking for?
The cover letter. We don't have the other one, but this is HR 38. This is the one we need you guys blowing up the phone lines and blowing up the inboxes of your representatives. There's going to be links down below after this video where you can.
He's telling us to tell people.
Yeah, people have said that a couple times in the chat and they get banned for it.
Okay. Yeah. Guys, don't say dumb things in the chat. I mean, seriously. Where was I?
You're talking about.
Yeah, we want to pass HR 38 and we don't want to pass HR. 4434.
The number to the congressional switchboard is in the description below.
Yep.
And if you want to donate to the chat, there is super chat enabled, or go to Streamlabs.
Right. Yep. If you want to donate, you can
the links in the description.
Or Streamlabs in the description. All right. So
I have the verbiage for where it talks about the the different areas that'll open up. So
read it, David.
I'm working on it, Sam.
Read it, David. Read it to the people.
A person possessing or carrying a concealed handgun in a state under subsection A may do so in any of the following areas in the state that are open to the public: a unit of the National Park System, a unit of the National Wildlife Refuge System, public land under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Land Management, land administered and managed by the Army Corps of Engineers, land administered and managed by the Bureau of Reclamation,
BLM is huge. I mean, they own like half the country. I mean, it's ridiculous. So then,
but it doesn't refer to
military bases,
or anything like that.
All right, so guys, HR 38 is important. This is critical that you act now. This is going to go to the floor for a vote starting tomorrow. They expect it to come out of committee, and it's going to go to the floor for a vote. Now is the time to start contacting your representatives. This is the House. We will put links down below, or go to the Gun Owners of America's website, and they have a form there that you can fill out. If you're wondering what you need to write or whatever, they have a form on the Gun Owners of America's website under how to contact your representatives, and it's a form letter. I highly recommend you write your own letter, but if you're uncomfortable doing that, they have a completed form letter for you. The reason I'm opposed to that is if they get too many form letters, it's easy to dismiss like, oh, this is just some bot. If you write something personal, here's what I also would caution you. Be short and to the point. If you write more than 2 paragraphs in your email, you've written too much. Really, all you have to say is, I urge you strongly to support HR 38, and I strongly urge you not to support HR 4434, and that's all you really have to say.
As a tax-paying constituent, this is my voice. You
know? And that's what they keep a tally, and that gets passed along to the representative, and that's how we apply the pressure. Now,
tax-paying voting.
Let's talk about this thing in the House. So it's gonna pass.
One thing before we move on, timing. Right now is the reason that we're doing this right now is because of the timing. So don't put it off.
No, yeah.
Right. So
tomorrow, start warming up the phones.
Right.
The date today.
I mean, the reason that we're doing this live stream on a Tuesday instead of a normal Wednesday
is because tomorrow you need to be
morning
blowing it up.
Do it. And
set alerts in your phone.
And so because you know, we have this information and you know, we're being helped by GOA with you know, how to make our message most effective. That's why we're doing it today. So that's the timing is right now. So tomorrow is the time you want to do it. It's important.
And this sucker has over 200 co-sponsors in the House. Now we do expect HR 38 to pass the House of Representatives. We believe, or GOA believes, that they have enough votes to get it passed easily out of the House. We do want to make sure that when it comes out of committee tomorrow, that it doesn't have any amendments, any poison pills. But assuming that it doesn't, then we definitely need to support it. I'll let you know if there's something that, you know, I'll post on my Facebook page, I'll post on Instagram. If something comes up tomorrow that we didn't expect, I will let you guys know. But yeah, we need to do this. And there's something else I wanted to mention about this. Oh, so where we're going to run into a hard time with HR 38 is when it gets to the Senate. All right. So this is where you really need to warm up those phones and warm up those email browsers, because we expected to pass the House, but in the Senate, we only have 53 Republicans, and that presents a problem because Chuck Schumer has already promised to filibuster HR 38. To break a filibuster, since they don't have the nuclear option, they need 60 votes. That means they need to flip, assuming all Republicans carry, all 53 Republicans carry, and they may not. We've seen a lot of turncoat Republicans lately. Assuming all 53 Republicans support HR 38, you still have to flip 7 Democrats to bust a filibuster by Chuck Schumer. So that's why we really need to be pressuring not just the House. We do need to pressure the House, make those phone calls. We need to make sure that we get a clear victory in the House. But then when we hit the Senate, we're going to warn you guys again, get out there, get active. It's now or never, because if we don't pass this now, it could be years before we ever see it again, assuming we ever see it again. And I do believe it's a good thing.
What was I going to say? Some people are asking, how could, or in what way could this possibly backfire against us people that are on the pro-gun side of things if we get an anti-gun president or an anti-second amendment president going forward?
So this is something that I had an in-depth conversation with GOA about. I spoke with them directly on the phone, and I said, because keep in mind, these things are written in legalese. It's not the easiest thing in the world to read. They have staff lawyers, and they look this stuff over. And I sat with them. We went through item by item, and they said this is why we 100% support this. Keep in mind, GOA in 40 years has had a no compromise position when it comes to anti-gun laws. When GOA says that they support something, I listen, and they have gone through this. This gives no power to the federal government. There's nothing in this bill that gives any more power to the federal government. All this does is forces states to honor the permits and laws of other states and the citizens of those states. So it's forcing reciprocity in states where Otherwise, you couldn't own a gun to defend yourself. So now you have the option of going out and either, going to Florida, and, some people are snowbirds and they have dual residency. They can get a permit there. You can get out-of-state permits. There's non-resident permits. I have one from Florida myself, so I have 2 permits, Indiana and Florida. This HR 38 gives you that flexibility. There's no extra power to the federal government. And I asked, the GOA, is there any bad things? Is there any gotchas in this? Is there anything in here that we should be cautious of? And they said they don't see anything. If it comes out of committee in the form that we have it right now.
Right.
If that changes,
that's the gotcha.
I'll let you know.
That's the gotcha.
Right. If the gotcha is the poison pills.
It gets marked up and changed up.
Right. They insert a Hughes amendment, and then we have to rethink things.
I had a lot of people asking about 4434. If you could explain it a little more in depth.
Okay.
The dangers of it and stuff like that.
We covered the good news. Now the bad news.
That was the good news, guys. Please contact your representatives on HR 38 tomorrow. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is now or never, guys. If you don't do it and we don't pass this, we've really screwed ourselves over. This is a golden opportunity, and the fact that we're able to get this far with it, given recent events, it's going to take you doing your part. You can't expect the NRA and GOA and us in social media to do all the heavy lifting, guys. We're just 4 people sitting here in a room. You guys do all the heavy lifting. You're the ones that need to pick up the phones. You're the ones that need to fire up the web browsers and send the email clients. All right, let's talk about HR 4434. This is the one you need to oppose. It's called the NICS fix. All right. Where do we start with this one, man?
I guess we start with the actual NICS Act.
Okay.
Right. Let's start with the original before we start with the fix.
Right.
I guess that's a good place to start.
The best way to fix the NICS is to get rid of it, in my opinion.
Right.
So, for those of you that don't know what the NICS is, it's a national background check system that was implemented, I believe, under Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah.
As part of the part of his ban. Anyway, so the NICS system basically is supposed to be an instant background check system. It's not so instant. As a matter of fact, me, with a perfectly squeaky clean record, I was buying guns from his dad's store before we were business partners, and I would go in and probably every 10th purchase I would get delayed. And then as time progressed, it was every other purchase I got delayed, to finally every single gun purchase I made, I was getting delayed. And it got ridiculous to the point where I went and got a U-Pin. So I can, at least now that I'm FFL, I don't have to worry about it. But back when I was not an FFL, I didn't have to worry about being harassed because I was getting flagged false positive every single gun purchase. And the NICS system, if you take a look at the statistics, the NICS system is over 90%. GOA says it's around 95%. We'll just say over 90%. And I know this from being a gun store owner, and Dave can talk about it because he's been a gun store person a lot longer than myself. The vast majority, over 90% of the people that get delayed or denied, ultimately get to pick up the firearm. It was a false positive. And has anybody ever been arrested?
So the other thing I want to talk about is the time it takes to get that figured out. So on a delay, so let's start with the delay. So you go in, you do your 4473. NICS can't make a decision on whether you are who you say you are. You're allowed to have it. So then they put you on a delay, which is at most a 3 business day delay,
which always winds up being 5 days somehow.
Right. And then within that time frame, they can or cannot get back to you. So here's that thing about the constitutionality of wait periods and if they're effective and all that. The system is very slow and inefficient. Now with denials, a huge percentage of the denials are false positives. So, over the years, I've had many guys that have gotten denied, and then they have to go through an appeal process. That appeal process is essentially the UPIN process, is where they have to submit a written request, they have to submit fingerprints, they have to submit, the application for that they provide you. And then it's up to, how long did it take you to get your...
Months, couple months.
Right, so then we're talking about 3 months, I would say, on average. 3 months before you receive that UPIN where you can actually purchase a firearm. For no other reason than that they are not good at what they do.
Right, and all it does, so here's the problem with the NICS system. Of the people that have used firearms in national tragedies over the last decade, let's say, Almost all of them went through the NICS system, and it didn't stop anything. Dianne Feinstein herself, when asked twice on national television, what law could you pass tomorrow? What law could you pass that would change the outcome of what happened in Las Vegas? And she said there isn't a law. Nothing would change it. She said that twice in 2 different interviews. So it wasn't a slip of the tongue. Even the anti-gunners know it. The NICS system does nothing but harass legal gun owners. It's giving the federal government the power, and I believe this wholeheartedly, to keep track of gun owners. Under federal law, they're supposed to purge the data and not keep it, but I do not believe that for a minute. That's just like saying 4473 forms aren't gun owner registrations. Go watch a movie from when I was a kid, Wolverines, gosh, why can't I think of the movie?
You're looking at me.
Red Dawn, thank you. I'm like, good grief, why can't I think of any movie? I can think of, I know, I'm getting old. I can think of Patrick Swayze, but I can't think of Red Dawn. And when the Cuban soldier says, go to the local gun stores and get all the 4473 forms, that's how we're going to find out who the gun owners are. We're going to put them in the concentration camps. At any time, ATF can walk into our gun store where we're at right now and demand to see our books. And they're going to do what they want with them. They can take notes, they can do whatever they want. Most certainly 4473 forms are gun owner registrations. It's absolutely 100% true. I don't care what you believe. It is registration of gun owners. And the NICS system, I believe, is just as guilty of that.
But the submission of 4473s, as a FFL, you're required to hold on to them on premises for a certain number of years. And then at that point, it's not that you can't just destroy them.
You have to mail them to the ATF.
You have to mail them to the ATF.
So at some point, all those 4473 forms that you've ever filled out in your life wind up in the ATF's hands. And now tell me again how that's not a gross violation of federal law that says you can't keep a registry of gun owners. But they're doing it. And the NICS system is just as broken. So out of 10 million 10 million queries to the NICS system in 2016, 10 million transactions of the NICS system in 2016, 13 prosecutions.
Of prohibited people. So people that have tried to buy guns that have been prohibited.
And it could have been something as stupid as they were caught smoking pot in California. And that's a federal crime. So let's talk about HR 4434 and what it does. So what it does is it expands the, where are the notes here? Right here. It expands the NICS system. So
you're stealing mine. Give me yours.
Yeah, there you go. So it expands it. So right now, what the government wants you to believe is that because states aren't required to do reporting of every single medical visit, every single thing that you do, they're not required currently under federal law to submit it, or they're not obeying federal law to submit those records for the NICS system. What they want to do is, first of all, the NICS fix is saying you must abide by the law. It's saying states, do what you're supposed to do. So that's part of it, but it goes further than that. It goes into, you were just reading it, this is the wrong one. It goes into adding additional restricted people. So for example, there's over 257,000 US veterans that have been deemed mentally defective because they're having somebody else in their family help them with their finances. And this is under the NICS system. If you're a veteran and you served overseas and you go to the VA and you get treatment for PTSD, if you're not a military veteran, you're just somebody that lost their mother, and you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed as clinically depressed and you're giving Zoloft or whatever they give you, and you have a diagnosis of a mental disorder, what this NICS fix does is requires the states and those doctors to report you to the federal government, and it expands a list of people that are no longer able to buy guns. This includes states where marijuana is legal. So if you are known to be a legal marijuana purchaser in what's a free state, Oregon, right?
Arizona, Oregon, Washington, California.
Right. So a lot of the Western states, while the states say it's okay for you to use marijuana, the federal government says it's still a no-no, and this would force the states to report you as potentially as a marijuana user, and under federal law, you're no longer able to buy a firearm.
I think to kind of put this in most descriptive terms, this is enabling the slippery. taking the original NICS and kind of facilitating more of a slippery slope. Right. It's an expansion of reporting that can be used to essentially deny.
Websites, GWeb said that Hawaii has started to collect guns from medical.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting over a cold, so I pardon the coughing. So GWeb's gun websites, check him out. Subscribe to him if you don't know who he is. But he's saying that the Hawaii is started collecting firearms, collecting firearms from medical marijuana card holders. So this is what it opens up to now, and this is what the GOA says that we have to be on the lookout for. What this bill would potentially do. It would also, not only right now are you considered to be mentally defective if you're having somebody help you with your financial affairs, it would open up the door to Social Security and saying, okay, so you're over a certain age, you're no longer trusted to drive, they've taken your driver's license away, well, we're going to take away your right to own a firearm as well. I mean, Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, S-CHIP, and perhaps even SSI disability persons would be subject to the same conditions as those that are military veterans that have sought help for PTSD. So what this does is it takes an already flawed, broken system with a over 90% failure rate and expands it to include groups of people that I don't agree with somebody that's smoking pot in Oregon should be denied the right to own a gun any more than I think that you should be denied a right to own a gun because you went out and got drunk last Friday night. I'm a libertarian. And I don't think that the government should be able to tell you what you do or with whom you do it with. If you want to sit out butt naked with a beer and a joint and a lawn chair and a machine gun in Montana and shoot bullets at the blue sky, that's what freedom is, folks.
Right.
And what we live under now is the illusion of freedom. And we think we're free. Even when I travel abroad, I feel stupid because I see countries that were former Soviet satellites that live more free than I do as an American, but we're programmed to believe that we're free. And this NICS nonsense, the only way to fix it is to tear it up. The NICS needs to go away. There's your NICS fix. Do away with it.
No, you're fine. The other big thing.
Sometimes you get going, man.
The other big thing to think about is the guys that get denied and think that they've been wrongfully denied. What is their recourse of action? Right? They can bring suit. They can do a hearing, to try to get it back. But you're paying lawyer fees, thousands of dollars to try to reinstate a right that was taken away from you
without due process. Right. That's the critical part, and thank you for bringing that up. So when they deem you to be mentally defective because you're a medical marijuana user, or you're elderly, or you've sought help for your finances because you can't handle your own finances, you're a mental defective, you're denied your constitutional rights without due process. There's no court, there's no judge. You're just submitted to a no-fly list, basically, and you're not getting on the plane, folks. You're not buying a gun. And here's the sick thing, because I've asked when I was getting denied, not denied but delayed, I wanted to know why I was being delayed. They won't tell you. Even if they deny you, they won't tell you why. So you don't even know how to fight it. I mean, how do you, if they would say, oh, well, in 1986, you were questioned by a police officer for fighting in a parking lot at a hamburger joint.
In the case of a denial, when you write in for the denial, their UPIN process, I do believe that they give you
a reason. Right? Okay. When I was being delayed, I was never told why. I couldn't get an answer.
But so we've used this story before, and I forget where, but in Indiana, when you get a divorce, the man automatically has a protective order put against him. Now, most lawyers in the state know that they automatically file for a lifting of that protective order.
Right.
If a lawyer forgets to do that, you are hereby denied your right to buy a firearm.
For life. If you've ever, it's not just while an order of protection is the same thing as what else they call it in other states?
Restraining order.
Restraining order. It's the same thing as a restraining order. If you've ever been subject to a restraining order because your spouse or somebody you live with or whatever has filed a restraining order against you, you're prohibited from owning a firearm.
So this is
period.
If it's a perfectly amicable divorce, no domestic violence, no issues,
In Indiana, automatically. The male gets an order of protection slapped against him unless his attorney is wise enough to stop it before it starts. Because we've had people come into gun shops that get denied.
I've had two guys get denied for that reason, not knowing that they even had a protective order. They went through the denial process and they had to Once they got the reason, they had to go back to a lawyer. The lawyer had to file a motion with the court to get it lifted.
And this is costing thousands of dollars.
Money and time, and it takes months.
And it's complete and utter BS. But now you have to pay money and wait months just to get your rights back that were stripped from you without due process because of this NICS nonsense. The NICS does nothing but harass gun owners, legal gun owners. We didn't have a NICS system until 1994, but somehow we made it through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even the early 70s with relatively low violence. We saw a spike in violence in the late 70s and early 80s with a thing called crack cocaine and street gangs when they became a thing. And gang violence and drug-related violence spiked during the 80s. And that's what caused states like Florida, because they were just completely overwhelmed with how rapidly violent crime was rising in their state, mostly due to the drug trade, that they just did something crazy and they passed a concealed carry law. And everybody thought it was the craziest thing in the world. The whole country was watching. And lo and behold, every year after that law was passed, their violent crime decreased measurably every single year. And that started other states talking about it. And here we are 20 years later, and all 50 states have concealed carry laws, and our crime rates, despite the fact what the mainstream media is telling you right now, with you know what happened in Vegas and all these other things, despite what you're being told during in the mainstream media, do your own research. Go look at the FBI statistics. Crime right now is at an all-time low, and it has nothing to do with the NICS system. The crime started to decrease as states started passing concealed carry laws. The NICS system didn't come in until after 1991. In 1991, we started to see the crime rates dropping off. The NICS system came in 3-4 years later.
Do you know what else you saw?
What's that?
The sales of firearms
skyrocketed. So we saw concealed carry permits go up, and we saw the sales of firearms go up. Over the last decade, we've never seen higher gun sales.
2 decades.
Two decades. So we have more guns in the hands of more Americans, and yet crime is going down. Violent crime is going down. And the NICS system has nothing to do with that, except harassing, because 90% or over of the positives that it gives are false.
I don't know how you can say that. They prosecuted.
Oh, that's right. 13 people out of 10 million transactions. They did get those 13, and they were probably dope users, right? So they were probably pinched because they were, selling marijuana to their neighbor.
The majority of that is probably organized stings that they were already watching somebody.
Right. So
for some reason.
Randy Weaver style.
So guys, if you have any questions about HR 4434, I strongly recommend, because this is looks like it's gonna make it out of committee and go to the House floor for a vote. We need to squash this. You need to fire up the phones and the email browsers. I know I keep saying this, and let your representatives know you do not support HR 4434. Okay, this has to happen. Start tomorrow, guys, and keep it up all weekend into next week. We got to do it until we get a vote on both of these bills, and we defeat 4434 and we pass 38. All right. So do we have any questions? Do we have any donators that need to answer the questions?
Right.
We're going to answer some questions for the guys that are doing the super chats, that are donating to the channel to support our efforts here. We're going to answer your questions now.
Kind of a question that Sam stated earlier. Some people are worried about states' rights with HR 30.
Right.
This is a weird relationship, because if you're worried about,
it's perspective based. If you're anti-gun, it's the worst thing ever. If you're pro-gun, it's the best thing ever.
I wouldn't say it's the best thing.
Well, I mean,
I guess if you're supporting states' rights to do it, you're supporting their right to go against the Second Amendment.
Right. So we do have 50 autonomous states.
It's this weird kind of relationship.
Right.
I don't know.
I do know. So this is what I say. So the Constitution and the Bill of Rights applies to all Americans. All Americans are created equal, right? And we all have certain unalienable rights, and those are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. And a state cannot violate your individual rights. They can't pass a law that infringes legally on your right. Free speech, to own a gun, to many other things. So all this bill is doing, it's not giving any power to the federal government, but what it's saying is, to those states that are banned states, sorry guys, your laws are irrelevant, because your citizens can go get permits from other states, and they can carry based upon the laws of the states in which they're permitted. And so it will erase anti-gun laws Not all of them, but it will certainly fix overnight some really heavy restrictions in places like California, New York City, New Jersey. I know I keep in Illinois.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is it's not the federal government stripping states' rights for its own power grab. It's the federal government giving people back their rights and their power.
It's the federal government enforcing the Constitution, because Article 4 of the Constitution says that states are supposed to honor other states' licenses and permits. And other states clearly aren't doing that. That's why you can use your driver's license from whatever state you're in and drive across the state line, and you won't get arrested for not having a driver's license. If you're licensed in Kansas and you wind up in Missouri, you don't get arrested in Missouri for not having a Missouri license.
I think that would have been a valid argument if we would have seen this bill come out to be what we hoped it wouldn't be, of a national registration type bill. Then it's putting that power into the federal government's hands, and that's not what we're seeing.
That's not what this is. So this is not a federal licensing scheme, which we would be way opposed to. So guys, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, and you know how far off the right side of the spectrum I am with regards to our gun rights, I think all gun laws are unconstitutional. I see H.R. 38 as a major victory in terms of winning each little individual war. Do I want to see licensing in states? No, I think all states should be constitutional carry, but this helps us get there. This gets the conversation going. Can you imagine all the people in New York that are going to be so angry that they can't even exercise their Second Amendment rights when I, as a Hoosier, can walk into their state carrying the handgun I'm carrying with 15 rounds, and they can't stop me because federal law says they can't, because the Constitution's being enforced by H.R. 38? That's how I see things. I'm sorry, guys. We had to open a window. It's hot in here now. There's a train going by.
It's just me.
I don't think it's being picked up on the mic.
There's not a ton of questions. A lot of comments. Just either expressing agreement with you, or commentary revolving around all the same stuff we've been talking about. How no compromise, or how this would affect.
I am no compromise. This is not a compromise, guys. This
we said at the very beginning. Tim established firmly where he stands on this. This is just something that will help us work within the system that we've been given. I don't really personally like that, but this is a good piece of legislation.
It is a good piece of legislation, and it puts us as gun owners in a very powerful position, because this could help us open the door to undoing these unjust gun laws in places like California. It's going to start the conversation, because if all Californians can just go get a license from Utah and carry whatever they want in California and totally ignore California law, that's going to start a national discussion, and we need to have that discussion. Because right now, our country is grossly out of control. We have a federal government that's wildly out of control, that's usurping the rights of us as individuals and of the states. And what this legislation does is forces the states to play by the rules that are written in the Constitution, which I'm a strict constitutionalist, and it forces them under Article 4 to do that.
We were talking in earlier live streams when the Curbelo bill came out, and the Feinstein, when we talked about that before it was even given a number, that their whole goal, or what they've been doing, is that death by 1,000 cuts, where they take those little steps, you compromise here, and all of a sudden you don't have your gun rights. And what we talked about is we have to reverse that, and we have to win back small piece by small piece by small piece. And this is actually a much bigger piece than I thought that we would get, or hopefully get. So it's a step in the right direction to national constitutional carry. I'm surprised that it's as good as it is.
Yeah, and I just hope we can get it through the Senate, guys. That's what's so important. We're going to get it through the House. We got to be politically active. You've got to reach out and post things. Spread this video on Facebook. Spread it on YouTube. Spread it everywhere. Start a discussion. Don't even share the video. Just start the discussion on your own Facebook channels and in private groups and stuff, and on the discussion forums. Get people talking about it. Motivate people to contact the representatives over the next few weeks so we can get this law passed, H.R. 38, and we can defeat H.R. 4434. It's absolutely critical, guys, because I think this is probably one of the biggest pieces of legislation I've seen in my lifetime. We've seen a lot of positive change for gun owners in America. Again, all 50 states have some sort of licensing program. Some states are shall issue, others are may issue. But at least all 50 states have concealed carry at some level now. And this is going to force it even further. This is going to make it so every American can exercise their Second Amendment rights to self-protection, carrying a firearm, if they want to do so.
Any other questions, Sam?
We've had a user donate several times. Omar has a username, but asking about if we've had any update or any status change on HPA or the Share Act.
Okay, so no, right now, the Share Act, I think HPA is just completely dead. The Share Act,
HPA is not even a thing anymore.
I don't think it is. It's got morphed into something else. The Share Act, the Share Act was a very good piece of legislation. Again, and to what David was saying, and a point I want to drive home, the anti-gunners are playing a long game. They don't want to ban all guns today. They know they can't do it. Dianne Feinstein's been crystal clear. If I had 51 votes in the Senate, I would round them up, Mr. and Mrs. America. That's their end game. They want to kill us by 1,000 paper cuts. Let's use their strategy against them, and that's what this does.
The Share Act
is shelved.
So HPA got rolled over in a couple larger pieces of legislation. I'm just kind of giving a recap for anybody. Yeah, HPA was a terribly written piece of legislation. It got rolled over into larger pieces in order to gain more bipartisan support so that we could pass the Senate or make it more palatable for votes. But when Vegas happened, they shelved it. Yeah. And we don't know when it's going to come back.
The Share Act, I really wish
it's still there, kind of just hibernating.
It's not dead, and rumor is they want to start. They'll look at it again in 2018. But because of recent events, it's not going to happen. That's why I'm so surprised that we even have a crack at HR 38. And this is why you guys got to blow up the phone lines and emails, because the fact that we can even have the hope of getting this passed, and we have a very good chance of doing this if you do your parts to actually getting this passed. And that will be inroads potentially to getting the Share Act discussed.
Well, and that's another thing is there's no reason why you can't blow up Paul Ryan's communications and say, hey, bring the Share Act back.
Right. It's all up to Paul Ryan.
Yep. Right.
But we want to be careful because we don't want it to get shot down either, right? Because it'll be years before we see it go for a vote again. So, but the Share Act had a whole bunch of cool verbiage in it. It even included, it fixed the Gun Control Act in 1968 in one aspect where it got rid of the Sporting Purposes Clause. That Sporting Purposes Clause has destroyed importation capabilities of so many different companies and has so heavily grossly infringed on our Second Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. The Share Act does away with that, gets silencers off the registry, did all sorts of cool things. But Hillary Clinton, not a day after Vegas, went on television and said, could you imagine if the shooter would have had a silencer, he would have done so much more damage. They're so calculated in what they do and say, and it wasn't within 48 hours, I think Ryan had shelved the Share Act. Right. And so anyway, good news, HR 38. Bad news, HR 4434. Any questions, comments? Any concerns you guys may have that you want to, any major concerns on these two bills that we need to address?
I think you guys, most of the comments are coming through the same. So I would encourage folks that just recently joined, go back and check out the first half of this stream. A lot of the questions you guys are asking, Tim and David have addressed at length at the beginning, explaining the bill and explaining the concerns that we kind of anticipated and such. So all of this stuff has already been addressed.
Yep. All right. So
how long
we're right at an hour. We got 7 minutes.
5 minutes left.
So yeah, guys, I just wanted to get this out to you. It's very critical. We only go political here on the Military Arms Channel when we think it's important. This is important in our opinion, and it's absolutely imperative in my mind that you guys make this happen. HR 38, and it's absolutely imperative that we squash HR. I'm gonna hold this up, but it's just a handwritten note. HR 4434. The only way to fix NICS is to get rid of NICS.
When HR 38, this is from Caleb Shipley, donated $10 to the stream. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Caleb, by the way.
Thank you.
Would HR 38 make both open and concealed national carry happen, or only concealed?
So it doesn't say in the law. My assumption is whatever's legal in your state would be legal wherever you go, but that's an assumption on my part. I didn't read in the law. It's only the law is
it
what?
Says like 4 pages. I mean, it's called the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Bill.
Yeah, so maybe it's just restriction. It's a good question.
Here, yeah, I mean, it's called the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Bill. So
yeah, I don't
know for sure. I would guess that maybe
that's a good question. Maybe the governing by the laws of the state of the issuing license.
We can try to get that information and post it in the.
Yeah, we'll try to find out. It's a very good question. My recommendation, just for tactical purposes, I mean, I'm all for open carry. I don't care how you carry your handgun. If you strap it to your forehead, I don't care. But from a tactical position, you're probably better off concealing it anyway. Why broadcast to a potential adversary that you're armed and give them the upper hand.
Well, Mark, write that question down so
but
make sure we
I do
find
believe,
out the
hold on,
answer and
I
post
saw a
it.
text come in. I got a text from GOA here. Okay, GOA is saying only concealed carry to their knowledge.
That's service right there.
Guys, how cool is that? GOA is watching this live stream
helping us answer
your questions. I love the Gun Owners of America. I mean, they've just been amazing to work with. And what's really cool, guys, is they call me almost daily. And I've asked them to do that. If anything moves on the Hill, if anything happens, they are right there. I mean, I'm getting text messages and phone calls from them. Hey, this is what's happening. And we discuss, is this something that we need to make the public aware about? And, they've been so helpful. This is the relationship I was looking for, so I could be politically active and help, get some of our rights back. I just wish we could, I wish we could pass one law that just said, okay, we're getting rid of all the laws that are on the books and starting from scratch with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because we have added so much junk to the Constitution through laws that, there's laws in the books that make it illegal to be driving a car when you pass a horse and buggy. You're supposed to pull over and stop your car.
It's neat to think, though, like, we consider this a good piece of legislation. It's not very big.
No, it's 3 or 4 pages.
Right. So then, like the Feinstein.
The assault weapons ban is like...
It's gigantic. I remember I was printing it out. For the other live stream, and I thought, did I accidentally have it on 4 copies or 5 copies because it just kept going and going?
Well, that was another thing is, Rand Paul was elected to the Senate, and he wanted to bring forth, wanted legislation to be put in place that just required members of Congress to read the bills in full before they were heard or voted upon, and they scoffed at that and got shot down immediately.
Right.
It's like, what?
Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting. Watch C-SPAN. If you want to make yourself sick to your stomach, watch C-SPAN sometimes. These elected representatives rarely show up for votes, and it's only along party line votes that are highly controversial, like firearms ownership and other hot button items. They'll show up to vote for that. For most of the stuff, these guys are the laziest. Ugh, I'm so sick of Congress. Yeah. People say, why don't you run for office? Because then I become that which I despise, and I despise politicians. All right. And if there's a politician out there watching as a fan of the channel, sorry. Hopefully you're on the right side of the argument, then I don't despise you. If you're a libertarian.
Someone asked about HR 3576. I don't know what that is. I'll have to
Guys, there's like 30 or 40 bills that have been proposed. These are the only 2 that we know of right now that are moving out of committee to the floor for a vote.
What was that number, Sam?
3576.
HR 3576.
Oh, that's the Sega. What?
Right now, these are the only 2 that we know of, guys, that are going out of committee to the floor for a vote.
That's a sexual assault.
So what?
We don't know about that one. So these are the 2 we need to worry about, guys, because these are actually heading out of committee to the floor for a vote, and we're going to have to warm up the bullpen and get things going for the Senate, because when this passes the House, which it will if you do your job and make the phone calls and send the emails, then we're really going to have to make our voices heard when it gets to the Senate. And if this thing passes, man, I haven't had a drink of liquor in 10 years. I might actually go out and celebrate with
the Second Amendment Guarantee Act. That's HR 3576.
One of the first ones was like it's a saga, so it's like sexual assault something.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know much about those guys. These are the only 2 that are currently heading out of committee to the floor for a vote. Out of all the pieces of legislation that have been proposed post Vegas and other national tragedies, these are the 2 that are heading out for a vote, and these are the ones we need to act on now. So, do your part down below. We're going to put links so you guys can do a little bit of research, find these bills, find out how to contact your representatives. I want to thank the GOA, the Gun Owners of America, guys. At the bottom of all my videos, there is a link to join the GOA. For $15, you can become a GOA member for a year, and they're only doing it for our subscribers. I get no kickbacks from the GOA. They're just doing that. I told them I wanted all the money going to fight anti-gun laws on the Hill, and so I'm getting no kickbacks from them. They're doing it just to support the channel and inspire you guys to get into the fight and support our Second Amendment rights. So there's a link in all my videos from the last few weeks to join GOA for $15 a year, I highly suggest doing it and passing that link around. Again, I get nothing for it other than we have more people fighting for us on the Hill, and we're better financing a true no compromise gun rights organization. So,
news on constitutional carry in India.
Guys, we don't know. We were just talking about that.
We were talking about that before. I thought it was up for a vote here soon, but
it comes and goes, and we never seem to get anywhere with it.
It seems to keep getting pushed back to the next session, and
Indiana is one of those states we have really, really good gun laws for the most part, but we have this little bubble of Chicago that bleeds over into Northwest Indiana. And just like Chicago controls the politics of Illinois, you go downstate Illinois and they're very pro-gun, very, libertarian thinking, constitutionalists. But up north, they're more progressive, which I just call communist socialists. And we see that like over in Maryville. Right. We have that, I can't even pronounce his name, Wiskoski or whatever. Wiskoski. We actually showed up in front of his offices one day, tarred and feathered him and effigy. We made a little dummy and we stood there. They locked their doors. They were scared of us, and we're all standing out there. And we had this dummy that we poured molasses over syrup and tore open pillows and tarred and feathered them right there in his parking lot. We're going to supporting anti-gun laws.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
It was awesome.
we're gonna try to get other guests in here, Skyped in people, guys from the GOA.
Yeah.
It might be kind of cool to contact Representative Lucas,
Jim Lucas. Yeah, it'd be great to have him on.
and have him on to talk about.
If there are any representatives that are watching would like to come onto the show, GOA in the future, we're trying to set it up in the live stream. We're still learning how to get all this stuff set up. But our next live stream that's politically, targeted, we hope to have a representative from the GOA in the stream so they can answer the questions you guys may have as well, because they can answer the questions even better than we can because we're getting the information secondhand. So we really look forward to doing that. And if there's any representatives out there that are fans of the channel that are watching this that want to speak their minds, I don't care what side of the argument you're on. Come on, I'd love to have an argument with an anti-gunner.
Well, I think honestly, I think it'd be cool just to see the insight of how, as a politician, this is handled, what the approach is, and kind of
right after I say I despise all politicians. Please come on the show and be our friend.
If they're on our side, they understand more.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fight, guys, and really we have to stick to our guns, pun intended. We have to stay no compromise. There's no such thing as a compromise when it comes to our rights. It's a taking of rights. There's a compromise insinuates that both parties get something of equal value in return. You're compromising. I'm giving you this and you're giving me that. What we've had since 1934 is a surrendering of our rights. Every time something happens, the anti-gunners get up on the soapbox and they say, see, this is why you can't be trusted with your rights. Let's have a reasonable discussion. Let's compromise. And what that compromise winds up being is we just hand over more and more of our liberty. And 50 years from now, we're going to wake up and go, what happened to the Second Amendment? I'm watching these videos on YouTube that are 50 years old. These guys used to have all sorts of stuff, and now we have, cap and ball revolvers, if we're lucky to have that. So that's why there's no compromise. There's nothing to compromise. There's no discussion to have. The only discussion I want to have with an anti-gunner is they want to sit down at the table and they say, I'm going to unconditionally surrender all the rights we've stolen from you since 1934 till present. Until they want to have that discussion, I have nothing I want to say to them, except, we'll see you in the halls of Congress and we're going to duke it out. I mean, figuratively, politically, right? So please, guys, get in the fight. Get on the phones. Follow the links. Join the GOA. Join the NRA if that's what you want to do. We're all in this together. We got to stop infighting. Yes, I am mad at the NRA for what they did post-Vegas, but I'm still a life member, and I'm going to try to fix the NRA from the inside, but do something. Don't just sit there and do nothing and think that it's just going to go by because we have a pro-gun president, you think, or we have a pro-gun Congress. We don't have any guarantees. We've seen way too many turncoat Republicans, and we have to fight every inch. We can't just assume this is going to pass. So, I know I keep repeating that, but please, guys, get in the fight. Join pro-gun groups. I don't care who it is. Just get in the fight. Make the phone calls, send the emails. Sorry.
All right, guys.
Is that it?
We're good.
All right, guys, that's it. We're just right at an hour. We greatly appreciate you guys tuning in and watching the show.
No baby.
And no baby alert.
No baby yet.
You might not be in for work tomorrow. We greatly appreciate the support, guys. So all those that donated to the channel, we greatly support that. We greatly are appreciative of that support. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. If anything changes in these bills, look to us on Facebook and on Instagram. I post there regularly. And if something changes, something goes bad or something goes good, look for updates there. If something really major happens, look for another video. And if you guys have any questions or comments, pretty much all the comments that happen in real time on the stream go away. Once it's saved, this video will be saved. Then you can post new comments. We'll try to swing in for the first few days and answer the questions you guys may have, and maybe the GOA will jump in and answer some questions you guys may have as well. Yeah, it'd be cool if you guys did that. I know you guys are watching and answer some questions. All right, so that's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the support, and we will talk to you guys soon.